Hello, everyone. This is the Quiz 1 review for human sexuality, covering chapters 1, 8, and 11. Quiz 1 will open on Thursday, February 8th at 6 a.m. and will close on Friday, February 9th at 11:59 p.m. You will have all that time to log on to take your quiz. Once you log on, you will have 60 minutes to complete your quiz. It is composed of 25 multiple choice questions, plus you have an opportunity to make 7 extra points with an additional question at the end, and I'll give you more information about that at the end of this review. So let's get started. Understanding oneself sexually and having interpersonal skills and integrity are two characteristics of sexual intelligence. Other aspects involve scientific knowledge and consideration of the cultural context of sexuality. Our sexuality takes a blank approach, reflecting the author's view that psychological factors and social conditioning have a crucial impact on sexual attitudes, values, and behaviors. The answer is psychosocial. Okay. Moving on. In ancient China, blank actively promoted sexual activity, including oral sex, sensual touching, and intercourse, as a means to spiritual growth and harmony, in addition to procreation. And the answer is Taoism. The sexual connection of man and woman during sexual intercourse was believed to join opposing energies, yin representing female energy and yang representing male, thereby balancing the essence of the two energies individually. To conserve yang, men were encouraged to ejaculate infrequently, and to generate more yin, female orgasms were pursued. In blank, circa 2500 before Christ era, the earliest known sex manuals were called Kama Sutra, were discovered in China. Okay. Calling a woman a slut to humiliate, intimidate, and degrade her for sexual behaviors that crossed the line of what was considered acceptable sexual activity is termed slut shaming. According to some researchers, both sexes engage in slut shaming. Slut shaming occurs to express contempt towards a woman or exempt themselves from being targeted. Okay. Even though slut shaming is targeting women, it's not always women doing that. Sometimes it is men who are slut shaming. All right. A man's inability to maintain sexual arousal within committed, loving relationships describes Madonna whore complex. Women's sexuality was polarized between Madonna, a virgin, and Eve, considered an evil temptress, which evolved into the vernacular, the term that we see here, Madonna whore complex. All right. Research about the sexuality of women during the blank found that the majority experienced sexual desire or orgasm. That would be the Victorian era. Cecilia Mosher conducted the only known research on female sexuality in the Victorian era. Over 30 years, she surveyed 47 married women through questionnaires and published the findings of those surveys. The dominant image of Black womanhood during slavery was termed Jezebel. Slaves were viewed as sexual objects. Women were Jezebels and men were called bucks. The euphemism Jezebel describes a treacherous seductress with an insatiable sexual appetite. Her male equivalent was a highly sexual, potent, violent buck. Slaves had no right over their bodies, nor had agency over how they were viewed, which greatly influenced or justified the poor treatment that they received at the hands of whites. In complete blank, a person neither masturbates nor has sexual contact with another person. In partial blank, an individual masturbates but does not have interpersonal sexual contact. In this prompt, the answer would be the same for both blanks, and that is celibacy. Many English women chose celibacy to be free of the limitations of marriage and motherhood, also to enable them to enter a religious community to pursue an education, and to enable her to retain her political power, because if they married, they would have been subject to her husband's will instead of being able to vote independent of her husband. Involuntary orgasm during sleep is termed nocturnal orgasm. Both sexes experience nocturnal orgasms. A man's ejaculation is evidence that a wet dream has occurred, whereas the evidence isn't as quickly determined for women. Stimulation of one's genitals to create sexual pleasure, also known as autoeroticism or masturbation. Freud's view of masturbation is that masturbation is normal during childhood, but if continued into adulthood, it results in the inability to form good sexual relationships. According to blank, 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 if someone is sexually active and has an sexually transmitted infection, but chooses not to inform their sexual partner for fear of rejection, they would be demonstrating a lack of respect and responsibility towards oneself and their partner, or what is described as level 1. The answer is the Maltz hierarchy of sexual interaction. In the Maltz hierarchy of sexual interaction, the sexual energy is considered a neutral force or ground zero, and it influences behavior positively, which is expressed as levels +1, 2, or 3, or negatively, or levels -1, 2, and 3. Doing this with a closed mouth to be more tends to be more tender and affectionate. This is kissing. Let's see. Couples who engage in open mouth or deep or French kissing, um, that type of kissing is usually more intense and it generates sexual feelings. The Kama Sutra that was mentioned earlier is a manual that has 17 different kisses. Um, it's worth looking up. I actually think that if I haven't yet posted that, I will post the names of those kisses and the descriptions of them. Oral stimulation of the vulva is cunnilingus. Cunnilingus technically is oral stimulation of the external genitalia, which would include the clitoris, labia minora, the vestibule, and the vaginal opening. Oral stimulation of the penis is fellatio. Oral stimulation of the penis would include the glans, the frenulum, and the shaft of the penis, as well as the scrotum. If heterosexual couples are planning to have vaginal intercourse as well as blank blank, do it before having blank blank. That would be anal intercourse. In blank blank, the man learns to control and delay his orgasm and redirect the sexual energy throughout his and his partner's body. The couple also harmonizes their breathing. That is tantric sex. Tantra began in India circa 5,000 before Christ era and was an ancient Eastern path of spiritual enlightenment. The image on the left shows a damaged or enlarged vein in the testes or vas deferens. This is called a varicocele. The varicocele causes blood to pool in the scrotum, elevating the area's temperature, thus impairing sperm production. A medical procedure in which semen is placed in a woman's vagina, cervix, or uterus is artificial insemination. In this procedure, semen is introduced, as I mentioned earlier, into the vagina, cervix, or if it is introduced directly into the uterus, it's called intrauterine insemination. Artificial insemination can be achieved through a donor sperm or from one's partner's sperm. In some instances, male donors offer to have sex at no cost, and that process is called natural insemination. Thomas Beatty, the pregnant man, is well known for opting for artificial insemination to give birth to 3 children. A hormone that is detectable in the urine of pregnant women is called human chorionic gonadotropins, or HCG. This is a hormone that's secreted by the placenta that indicates a woman is pregnant. If it is conducted in a doctor's office, they can detect pregnancy as early as 7 days after conception. In comparison, at-home tests detect pregnancy shortly after a missed period. So it isn't as sophisticated or advanced enough to uh, catch pregnancy early. A spontaneous expulsion of the fetus from the uterus early in the pregnancy, before it can survive on its own, is referred to as a miscarriage. After experiencing a miscarriage, couples may benefit from giving themselves some time to grieve the loss of the baby before pursuing another pregnancy. Parents may find it necessary to have photos and footprints of the baby who was lost. Some parents have found it very helpful to have a memorial service following a miscarriage. However you want to remember your child, honor your child, is completely okay. The court decision legalized a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy before the fetus can survive, independent of a woman's body. That is, it describes abortion, but it is the landmark decision with Roe versus Wade. In 1973, the US Supreme Court codified Roe v. Wade. In 1977, the US Congress passed the Hyde Amendment, which restricted the use of federal Medicaid funds for abortion, leaving many low-income women without this resource. Then 50 years later, in 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, ending the right to abortion. In some instances, this has been traumatic for some women who are really in need of this resource. For some women, this is a life-saving procedure. It's not a senseless, misguided act for some women. Right, moving forward. Syndrome in which infants caused by heavy maternal prenatal alcohol use, characterized by congenital heart defects, damage to the brain, and the nervous system, numerous physical malformations of the fetus, and below normal IQ. This is fetal alcohol syndrome. It's difficult to determine a safe level of alcohol consumption that would pose a danger to a developing fetus. Therefore, the first trimester is the most important time to stay away from drinking any amount of alcohol. Some doctors give women an allowance of, I think, 1 glass of wine a day later on in the pregnancy. But for some women, damage occurs to the fetus, um, I would, I guess, say later in the pregnancy. In any case, fetal alcohol syndrome can lead to congenital heart defects, damage to the brain and nervous system, intrauterine death, spontaneous abortion, premature birth, and other developmental disabilities. So I guess all I was trying to say is that any amount of alcohol at any stage of a pregnancy can pose a risk to a developing fetus. The first stage, referred to as effacement and dilation. The second stage, birth. And the third stage, the delivery of the placenta, collectively describes labor and delivery. Symptoms of depression and possibly obsessive thoughts of hurting the baby is postpartum depression. At its most extreme, it can cause women to lose interest in their babies and develop um, obsessive thoughts about harming themselves as well as their babies. Um, so, and it's very common for moms to experience the baby blues, which is a period of being uncertain about your abilities to be a good mom, to take care of your baby. Um, and that period can last the first couple of months um, after you give birth to your child. Postpartum depression tends to last much longer. Um, and the severity of the symptoms is more obvious. The symptoms are more obvious because they are more extreme than um, the baby blues. So in any case, we want our moms to be safe, to take care of themselves so they can take good care of their babies. All right, and that brings us to our last slide. The extra credit question, again, is worth 7 points, and it will be based on the TED Talk, My Mother's Strange Definition of Empowerment. That the content of that video should be fresh in your minds because you are watching it and answering some discussion questions on it. And your extra credit question will relate to the same material. So I wish you a great week. Have fun studying. I hope this is helpful to you in preparing for your quiz. And I will not be in my office. Um, well, I was not in my office this week. I will be in my office next week. If you have any questions, concerns, um, where you can find your quiz next week is going into modules and going down to week 4 um, in module 1. All right. So again, have a good week, and I will talk to you all really soon.